All right. I'm gonna give it a few seconds to make sure that we're on, but I think we are now. Hello, everybody. I'm Sam Irvin, and I'm here in Irvin Music Studio in Asheville, North Carolina, on 8 Note, or 8 parentheses PM Note, my weekly Wednesday live stream that I broadcast at 8 p.m. Once a week. I guess I was a bit redundant there. I have a different Asheville musician guest on every week to chat for an hour and jam for an hour in an effort to carve out some time in my life to be creative just for the sake of fun, you know, to play in the sandbox of music and just enjoy it without any pressure of it being for a specific performance. I mean, there's a little bit of pressure broadcasting this stream, as it also, you know, reflects my small company a little bit as I teach music lessons and perform at events like weddings and corporate events and stuff like that. I do want to represent my my musical chops in a positive way, of course. But mostly it's just fun to get to know people in the community a little bit better, whether it's catching up with old friends or like today, meeting a new acquaintance and talking to him and getting to know a whole other perspective of music that I haven't explored. You know, people take music lessons for a lot of different reasons. People have different ideas of the live music that they want for their events. I also work in the studio doing some recording and engineering work, you know, mixing and doing session work for clients who also prove time and time again that everybody has sort of a different approach and different opinions towards what music means to them and what they want out of the music that they create, or what role do they want music to play in their lives. So each week, each guest that comes on, I think broadens my horizons a little bit, and teaches me something. I'm sure I pick up at least one nugget every week of something new. No pressure, Joel. I have Joel Skene on today. He is a great guitarist. So you got to teach me something. He's a great guitarist. He's going to teach me something new. And he also is a host on a talk show, or a podcast that is a talk show. So maybe he'll teach me how to say less as I'm introducing my show, something like that. I'm really excited to get into it with him. Let's see, did I go down my checklist of everything I want in the monologue? Why do I do the live stream? To create stuff for fun, to get community in my life, to explore the Asheville musician community, and to advertise my business. Check. What does my business do? Private lessons in guitar and trumpet. I have a couple of drum set students and piano and ukulele students. Play for events with solo guitar, string combos, jazz ensembles, and work in the studio recording and mixing and doing session work. All right, check. Talked about the company. I also like to say the date. It's November 30th, 2022. Maybe that's a thing to do up top. And also, it was very windy today. That's our weather situation here in the mountains in Asheville, North Carolina. Coming to you with more of a casual vibe today with some Scraggle and dress down. I think hitting hibernation season. Sweater weather has come and gone, and now we're getting deeper into loungy hibernation wear. So you can look forward to that as these live streams continue. Haven't, as far as my musical projects go at the moment, getting some work done on the album that I mention every now and then. I have fully memorized the prelude to the 4th Bach cello suite, so I'm pretty proud of myself there. I'm about to invest in an MPC-1 drum machine, although somebody just mentioned that maybe I should get the Digitact instead. So any opinions about either of those, Yeah, please drop them in the comments. Please subscribe. If you're watching this anywhere besides YouTube, consider watching on YouTube, because I think that's what I'm trying to gear this show towards in general. Okay, I think that's the whole checklist of stuff in my monologue. So without further ado, let's get somebody more interesting than me on, my guest, Joel Skene. Alright, nice. You did it, you nailed it. Yes. I'm impressed. I'm not throwing shade on all the guests who couldn't quite hit that button, but you're a button pusher.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. And that's a good way to start off characterizing you, right?
Sure.
As a button pusher. I have only listened to a little bit of your podcasts, but you do seem accommodating to your guests and ask really thoughtful questions and just try to get deep with the subject matter in general.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate that. I'm excited for this. Thanks for having me here. I appreciate it. We should we tell people how we met?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, we were mostly nude.
That's right.
Yeah.
Not all the way nude.
No.
I had a fig leaf.
Yeah, at least. You had a fig leaf on. No, we were at the Y and enjoying the sauna, which just makes the Y so much better.
Absolutely. Yeah. Talk about a little bit of community too. It's nice. Even the old dudes who just get a hay, you know. It's nice to get 50 hays in a row.
Yeah, I was in there the other day in the steam room, and some guy he's a lawyer for like he's immigration lawyer, like helping people get their citizenship and paperwork and visas and all that stuff, and had like a really interesting conversation with him about that and like what that whole world is like just by hanging out in the steam room for 20 minutes.
Yeah, so, that's awesome. You're actually not the first guest that I've had on that I met at the Y.
Oh yeah?
I had Sam Browse on, who's the keyboard player for Papadozio.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, he's a super friendly guy, great player, and we also met getting our sauna on.
And let's getting the schwitz going.
That's right. Yeah. So how long have you been doing your show, The Mindful Marketplace?
Yeah, right? So I started that in May of this past year. It's
2021?
Yes. Well, 22. It was in May of 22. So I've just it's been less than a year.
How do you find guests for that?
Yeah,
Wait, I'm so interested,
no
and I'm going to block you for just a second, because it is a tradition on the show to check and make sure that we've got audio coming through. Oh, it's crystal clear.
Wonderful.
Doesn't that sound good? Okay.
Wonderful. All right, so which question should I answer first?
You answered how long you've been doing it, I think.
Yes.
And then, so how do you find guests for your live stream? For your podcast?
Yeah, some of the guests are people that I specifically seek out, that I'm like, I really think that this person would have a really great just sort of voice on the main question of the show, which has been changing. Like when I first started it, it was the first tagline that I had for it was, what does putting people over profits actually look like? Like people talk about it, but like, what does that actually look like? And then I kind of moved on from that, and because I feel that it just wasn't quite the right fit, and I moved to how can business be more mindful and less mindless? But recently, actually just today, I actually kind of feel like I may have found a better question for really what I'm getting at, which is, can investing in each other, can that actually be the thing that changes the world? And that's kind of where I'm going with it now. So I've had on some guests recently who have talked about the guy I had on today that's going to air in January, Peter Kroll. He's the CEO of Earth. I can't remember the name of it, but they do investing specifically into companies that are either at least carbon neutral, but are usually ones that are actually in industries that are green industries and these kinds of things. And that's cool. We also had on the one before that was a woman who lives up in Michigan, where I'm from, and she's an old friend actually, but she's one of the 20 or so people in the country that's a financial advisor, but that advises their clients on how to invest money locally, not just in, usually you have an advisor, they send their money, up to whatever mutual fund or the like basically the money's just getting sent to Wall Street. But she's helping her clients take at least a portion of their money and invest it into local real estate, local businesses, whatever is in their interest, right? And it lines up with their values. So, to me, it's where you spend your money and where you invest your money is kind of like what your vote for the future. In a lot of ways, that's more powerful than an actual vote.
No doubt.
Yeah, it's easy to get disillusioned with like pulling the ballot, but if it's like, well, hey, I can at least put my money into something that I think is good for the world rather than, just whatever you can. And that's a privilege, not everybody can do that. But I think that it's one of the main ways, if there is a way to make things better, I think that that's one of the main ways to do it, but I don't hear it being talked about all that much. So, so that's kind of the gist of the show. So it's been evolving and it's been fun to like see what it turns into, by just the conversations that I'm having. So yeah, it's definitely been a process of learning of like, I think in the beginning, my biggest problem was that I was trying to make it like I had too much of it needs to be this one thing, and I was trying to put people into a box a little bit.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
like, trying to and I realized that once I actually stopped kind of trying to over prepare for the conversation, like prepare in the sense that I know who they are, I know what they're about, I know kind of the things that I want to ask them about, but not trying to like line the people up to a message that I already that was my message,
Right.
Which is allowing their messages to really interact with the audience and just kind of be a conduit in that way. Really like definitely has when the guy who has so it's bizradio.us,
Right.
which is based here in Asheville, but we're kind of expanding a good amount into the Southeast region. But it's an independent,
okay, cool.
it's an independent radio network. It is all online now. So starting a couple of years ago, Matt went all online and all local. All the hosts are local. The guests aren't necessarily local, but the hosts all are based here in Asheville.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So thinking local is basically what you're talking about, right?
Yeah, and investing local, not just like spending your money there, but like, it's just kind of weird that when you think about it, like if I'm the, average American family or whatever, and I'm putting away money into my 401k every month, right? And that's getting sent up to Wall Street and the big banks. And then when the local business next door to me, when they need a loan, they need an investment, they go to the banks, and they get the loan from the banks. And it's like, why can't this just be more like, it wasn't always that way, like 150 years ago, that was very common. But things changed after the Great Depression and then so on and so forth. So if you want to hear more about that, listen to my radio show. I won't turn this into that.
You don't get me started on my politics. I'm just a lowly artist.
Yeah.
No, I do. I've got a philosophy degree, and I'm interested in that sort of.
Oh, what was your focus?
It was a double major, so I didn't have to even write a thesis,
Okay.
which was nice. But I have always just enjoyed like a survey, so maybe the history of philosophy is more of my interest.
Mm-hmm.
I'm reading a Bertrand Russell book right now, who, writing in the 1940s, talks about these different governmental structures and just offhandedly mentions like America, who's working towards like the corporations having all the power in like the 1940s, which is crazy.
Russell book?
The History of Western Philosophy.
Oh, okay, yeah. I haven't read that one. I bought The Problems of Philosophy, but I haven't. It's sitting on my shelf. There's a really great I don't know if you've been out to these, but there's two incredible local bookstores in just kind of outside towns. So up in Marshall, there's this really awesome one. I almost bought it. They had an original copy of Alan Watts's The Way of Zen, and it was like $40 or something. And I was like, and I didn't end up getting it. But
man.
And then there's another one out in Silva too that are just like, I walked the one in Silva. I had to leave after like 10 minutes because like I already had 4 books and I was like I gotta go now, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, just tons of really great,
I know.
great spots like that.
I cruise bookstores and stuff when I'm on vacation, and then I've just got such a backlog here.
Yeah.
You know, I only get to read I am pretty diligent about reading for like half an hour before bed every night.
Yeah.
I'm not necessarily plowing through books, you know.
Yeah.
When I worked at Moog Music, I was plowing through audiobooks super consistently, and that was awesome. I must have read or listened to 1,000, or not 1,000, 100 while I was working there. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I in my line of work, I used to go out and meet with clients in person. And so before COVID, and I would just have to drive because there's not a huge market here. So a lot of times I'd be driving to the Charlotte area or even Atlanta, and like
And what is your full-time job?
yeah. So I own a financial services agency with a company that's based here in Swannanoa called Symmetry Financial Group, and we're nationwide now, but they started right here.
Oh, cool.
And so I own an agency underneath in their company.
Gotcha.
So, yeah. And so we do like retirement protection and life insurance and, you know, some equity index stuff, but nothing too. Usually it's very like most of our clients are very middle America people who are just looking to either help their family out if they die, you know, save better for retirement, or, you know, are looking to protect their retirement against, you know, losing it all in the next crash, right? So yeah. So those people too.
Well, that's a noble profession, and
but yeah, I would
very,
listen to so many
practical.
I would listen to so many audiobooks when I was, because I'd have to drive like 2 or 3 hours each way, you know. And I remember, I think I plowed through like, you know, 30 books in a year and a half, just audiobooks like that, you know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's great. I don't think they sink in quite as deep, but it's still, you know, I think in general I love that, like that survey, just an index, or like getting a pastiche, like a taste of a very broad, you know, horizon of things. I always feel compelled to finish books. I don't usually leave them hanging, you know.
Yeah.
But I think this live stream is, you know, another example of that. Like, I just love touching different corners of the musical realm. So, like, tell me about your musical experience and how that fits into your life now.
Yeah, thanks. I'm curious about that, like, or at least part of this for you too. Music for me started when I was very young. My dad is still an ordained minister in the Free Methodist Church, and he would also be like the music guy at church too. So, you know, he wasn't like the pastor of a church, but he was actually a camp director. So I grew up way out in the middle of nowhere in Western New York in like cow country, but I basically grew up on a camp. And my dad, you know, every night when all the campers were there, he was playing guitar and like singing songs around the campfire with them. You know, he would play at church. My mom, you know, played violin, and she always loved to harmonize with the hymns at church, you know. And that was a way that I feel like I really connected with my mom, was in like singing and in harmonizing. So I prefer harmonizing to singing melody. Like, I just there's something about it. I think so it started very young with me. I started playing violin when I was 5 because my mom wanted me to do that, and then I also started taking piano lessons, but I was also like into sports and stuff, and it was just a lot, and so I was allowed to drop violin, but I had to keep piano. And so
If you're gonna choose one.
yeah, well, I had the choice and I chose piano. It just seemed more useful.
It's the ultimate instrument.
Yeah.
It's a recurring theme on here.
Yeah, I mean, it really is, you know. I'm learning how to tune one right now because I bought one that.
Oh yeah.
And my first time ever buying a piano, like without, I don't know, I've always just gotten one for free or like, and just it's always worked out nicely. This one, I had a tuner come over, and he was like, I can't take your money and do this thing, like, because he's like, it's gonna be back out of tune, and like, you know.
Oh no.
So I just like for like $10 on Amazon, you know, you can get like a tuning kit. And so I've just been like teaching myself to do that. It's never going to be perfect. It's always going to be warbly, but like, it's fun. It's like, there's something about learning how to do that and just going through that process that I'm finding kind of enjoyable. But
Yeah, there can be a little soul in the imperfection too.
yeah, exactly. And then when I was in like junior high, I started playing. I wanted to like play on the worship band, and so I would learn. I taught myself bass, and then my dad kind of taught me guitar. But once I had the basics down, I just sort of kept playing from there. And then in college is when I feel like I started actually playing music that was not just a straight rip off of something else. You know what I mean? Like where it's like, oh well, that's influenced by this, but like you didn't just like, oh you just wrote a song that just sounds exactly like the Bends. Like you like actually like you wrote like, and that was a really fun collaboration. That was a indie instrumental band in the early 2000s. So but it was like more jazzy and more like driving and more like rock and roll than like a lot of the like Explosions in the Sky or that kind of thing. We were more like proggy in a way.
Oh yeah.
So the shows were fun because it was very like, it was always changing, and the guy who was the main songwriter, my friend Jay, he just had this like exuberance when he played, and he was just so joyful. And like it was the first time that I was in something that like kind of caught fire, and like it was on a small scale, but people really liked it. And there's something about that connection with the audience that I just like, I've always loved and always wanted to like continue to have, is when you make something and then people like that you don't know and they hear it for the first time and they're just like engaged, and you can tell they're in the moment with you,
Yeah.
So yeah, and then I played in a bunch of other bands up in Michigan after that, just like indie rock, psychedelic rock stuff. I did do like a electronic R&B kind of hip hop group where we had a singer, and then I made the beats, but then live we would have in a live bass and drums along with the electronic stuff, just to like keep the energy up. And then I moved down here to Western North Carolina in 2014, and it's been cool seeing the music scene here like really grow and diversify, I would say, in a lot of ways. Because it did sort of feel, I'm sure there was more than I knew about, because I was new and I didn't know everything yet. But it did feel a little bit when I moved here like the options were either like bluegrass or more bluegrass, and so like I
feel like there's been a strong funk presence.
That's true. Yeah, the jam funk stuff, and like I have no problem with that. It's just not what I've ever played. It's not like what I ever like got excited about, and so I just kind of, it just felt like I didn't know what I would do if I was to get involved in music. And I was living out in Waynesville. It was like, so I just kind of stopped playing music for a few years. Not that I would play guitar, but I stopped writing music, I should say. I stopped like creating new music. But then I had a bunch of shit happen in my life. I had a few friends that almost died.
I've heard that happens.
Yeah. So, yeah, right. Yeah. So I had a bunch of shit happen.
Sorry to make a joke.
No.
Your friends.
No, you're good. Well, and I got divorced, and I had one friend die, another one get life-threatening cancer, like all within a month. And I got rear-ended by a dump truck all within a month, like within a month. Two of my friends got cancer, and then I almost died in a car wreck. And so then I got divorced. Both my pets died. Like I had plenty of, like I had like the songs to write. I was like, okay, all right, well at least I got some sad fucking country songs here.
Bluesy comeback.
Yeah, seriously, right? And I ended up spending a year out in Utah, and that was the year that COVID hit, and so I didn't know anybody out there. And so I got a dog, and me and my fiance now, my new wife, we moved in together, we got a dog, and so I would just walk my dog and write and just play a lot during that time, and just drive around and like listen to new music. And kind of coming out of that, I like started having these songs that are what we're releasing now, so these songs just kind of started coming out of it. And it's the first time that I've really written anything that I would say is like actually personal and actually like real, and about something that is meaningful to me, not me trying to fit what I think. It's kind of like with the show I said earlier, like when you first start doing something, it's almost like you're trying to fit a mold somehow. And so this is cool. It's the first time I'm writing stuff that I'm not trying to fit any fucking mold, because I don't care if anyone listens to it or not, honestly. Like, I just want to make an album that I want to listen to, that I want to go on a drive and listen to. Like, that's really the goal, you know.
That is, I mean, I think that's huge. That's amazing that you can take that heartache and that struggle and like funnel it into expression, or find I mean, obviously I guess you're finding some sort of relief or satisfaction in translating that anguish into like some creativity, some outlet, like blow off steam in that way. I think that's really huge. I don't know if I'm always successful with the tragic things in my life of putting them into a creative place, because I think that I sort of walk through the world just like viewing everything as sort of weird and creative all the time, and so when something hard happens for me, I don't always have that like that instinct to like, oh, I need to like, you know, put all this hard stuff like over here, you know, or at least maybe I'm still learning some of those emotional intelligence skills, parallel with like artistic skills of when to seize on that like that meaningfulness.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I mean, I it's definitely one of my more healthy coping mechanisms. Yeah, I mean,
yeah, right.
I'm, you know, there's plenty of unhealthy ones, you know, that, you know, you get caught in, but yeah, sometimes, especially when it's with music, but even just like with journaling, or like just like I try to journal as much as I can. I'm not great at it.
I'm a journaler too.
Yeah, I really want to be better at it, because and when I say better at it, I don't mean like at the skill of it. I just mean at like writing something down every day, you know.
Gotcha.
Just the habit of it, you know.
Yeah, I've gotten it to every morning, but I'll get into the habit, or the shortcoming. My shortcoming is that I'll just detail like what happened yesterday, rather than talk about like how I feel about it, or anything deeper, you know.
I still think just doing it is a good thing, like just to keep yourself doing it, because it doesn't seem to me like it has to be like every day you learn something new about yourself, but it's just like if you're doing it every day, every so often, you're gonna learn something new about yourself.
That is neat when it comes out on the page. And you're like, oh,
because I feel like half the time, like if I think something, I don't know if that's what I think. You know, like it's like I only know. Sometimes I don't know what I think. This is a better way to say it.
Sometimes when I think that that I know.
It's this I stuff. If we just didn't, we just got to remember that you don't exist, right? So if I sometimes I don't know what I think until I see it, like until I write it down. It's like the subconscious comes out in the writing. And it's like, oh shit, I didn't even realize that I like that. That's how I felt about this. I knew how I thought about it, but I didn't know how I felt about it. Anyway, journaling. What were we talking? Oh, and just, and I feel that even more so, I guess, is where I'm getting to with music, is where when I feel the song come out, it doesn't feel like something that I really, I don't want to be like, it's not something that I felt like I didn't do it. It's just that I don't feel like I didn't figure it out. I didn't like think my way there. Like it just somehow something intuitively came out that rhymed and that like fit this particular sound that I was hearing, you know? And like, that's really what I play instruments and stuff. And I mean, I mix and I do that stuff for my own thing, but I don't consider myself really so much of, I consider myself more of a songwriter and just like, I'm just trying to, I want the song and the sound, I want the lyrics to be, you know, great, obviously, right? But like I have specific songwriters that I want to emulate because they are so good, and I want to be of that quality. And at the same time, I want the music to, the vibe and the texture of it all, and just the experience of listening to it to match that. And so to me, it's not so much about like being awesome at guitar or awesome at this particular instrument. It's more about just how can I create the feeling that this song is about, you know?
And that feeling is somehow meaningful for you
Yeah.
too. So it's about maybe I don't think that I think by the time you finish a song, it's so much has got into it that maybe that initial thing that you were trying to express grows into something else or new. But there can be that through line, I think, of communicating that feeling to an audience, right? And so you have quite you employ a great turn of phrase in a lot of your lyrics.
Oh, thank you.
Nothing specific is coming to mind, but I was especially with that first music video that you released recently, not your most recent, but the one right before that. Do you remember any of the specific lyrics or all of them?
Yeah, I know my
Recite all
lyrics,
of
but
there was some about cards and like I don't know. I don't know what's coming to
oh,
me.
you said game? There's a line that has a game.
Game, yeah, maybe.
Yeah, what is that? It's just a game of making trades of long dull aches for passing pain. That was my way of saying a motivational quote that I had heard in my sales training and stuff that I had done before. That was, it's the idea that the pain of discipline is better than the pain of regret, was what this had been said, and I felt like that's true.
Yeah, gotta agree with that.
Yeah. And so what that meant to me is like, and it was about more than that, I guess, now that I'm thinking about it, now that you're making me talk about it. I feel like that's ultimately what I came to when I decided to be okay with, having my ex-wife and I split up. Like, was like, look, this is gonna suck. This is gonna be really difficult. This is going to be really painful, but it's a choice between a sharp, temporary pain, like discipline, right, or a long, dull ache of regret. And so, that was my way of saying that in the song. So yeah, I appreciate you mentioning that. So that means a lot to me. So thanks.
Yeah, definitely. Something about that really stuck out to me, even if I couldn't remember the specifics. There was like an automatic respect. I don't know, or like automatic's the wrong word because it invoked a respect from me of the lyricism, and I think that can only happen with something that's meaningful to the songwriter. There can be like cleverness and like punchy lyrics that are fun and stuff, and that's a different skill. But I think that writing something that means a lot to you resonates in a way with people.
Thanks.
Yeah. Well, thank you. For sharing your art. And let's talk a little bit more about that mixing process, because a lot of what I like to, I'm happy to talk about whatever. We can dig into the emotionality of your lyrics more too, but gear, talk to me about what are you doing with
Okay. So when I started recording this stuff, I didn't have, I was literally doing everything on an iPad.
Oh yeah, tell me.
So
sorry, let me interrupt you yet again, but you've released these couple of tunes recently. Are you working up towards an album?
Yeah, I think I have right now nine or 10 songs that are written, that 90% of the instruments are recorded on, that need vocals, need mixing, need mastering. So one of them isn't recorded yet, but that one's going to be a real stripped down one, so that'll be easy. Yeah, so I'm just planning to release them as I finish them, just kind of doing them one at a time. I feel like that's more engaging for people right now, but then it'll be able to be put together an album at the end of it. So I'm releasing them as singles, and then I'll put them together as an album.
Yeah, cool. Like the Gorillaz Song Machine.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Man, good band. Yeah. So I wish I'd brought it. I almost did. I didn't even think of it. So the instruments that I record, I now have like a respectable microphone. But when I first started doing this stuff, I didn't. I had one of these. It's like it plugs into an iPhone or an iPad, like it's a lightning port.
Oh,
just
yeah.
a little directional microphone that I was initially using for just recording like trainings I would do and like meetings that I would do, so that I could make videos out of those and like give them to new people to like show them a training, right? And so it literally was just this little tiny like plastic thing that had a wind like a case that goes over it to protect it if you're out shooting on your iPhone. Windscreen, right? So I was like, well, that works as a pop filter, so let's just give this a try. And at first it was very stripped down, just on the iOS GarageBand, and it was, but I was liking the sound. I was like liking what I was coming up with. I was using electronic drums and like sequencing stuff there, but
Inside GarageBand.
Yeah. But I was very impressed with like the quality of sounds that I was getting out of that. So I just kept doing that until we got to a point where it was like, it's going to be a little lo-fi, but it's going to do everything well enough, except we can't get the vocals to a level that's like where you can hear these, on top of everything else enough.
But what is it good enough for? Like your acoustic guitar?
Yeah, I used it for my acoustic.
On an amp?
My amp. Yeah, my acoustic amp. I mean, that was because I ran everything else through my amp. So like even my keyboard, I have a Bassman 100 on a Bandmaster stack, and so it's great because you can either do the low end or you can do the higher end on it. So I was able to, I just ran my keys through it, my bass through it, and my guitars through it, and then the acoustic just did it straight up. And I did the mixing, most of it. I got like most of it onto iOS. I was impressed with how much you could do on the iPad version of GarageBand. Like, if you're willing to, just like go into like not just use the presets, but like if you just actually look at all the plugins and like, figure out like what creates what type of sound and just play around with it, there's actually a good amount that you can do on there. And so I got it like up to a pretty good point there, but then I got a new computer, so I just moved everything over but continued to finish everything up just in GarageBand. So the mix, so the EQing, the final mixing, and then the mastering I just did in GarageBand.
But a lot of those effects are pretty wet. Like a lot of your stuff is like psychedelic, and so is that typically pedals through your amp, or are you adding some of those effects inside of GarageBand?
I was just adding those effects inside of GarageBand. At least on the electric, I was doing pedals into the amp, like for the electric guitar. But on the acoustic, like I've been really digging having two kind of picking acoustic parts that like harmonize each other. So basically, if a song's in C, I'll find like a picking pattern I enjoy, down here, and then I'll also find one in G with the 5 fret that harmonizes the lower one.
Yes.
And then flange them both, so that they just have
at different rates.
I just kind of play around with them, but I just really enjoy just kind of messing around with that sort of stuff.
Do you pan them?
Usually, Both of those songs had that a little bit. The one that was the first one that we shot in Zion, that's more kind of a country song,
right? A lot of layers.
Guitar on that. I love that. I'm like a dream pop shoegaze guy at heart. Like that's like if I could just listen to Cocteau Twins and Lush and like all of that, like
Lush is great.
Yeah, I'd be a happy guy. So that was fun. But I'm enjoying messing around with kind of creating like that sort of. I want it to be like halfway between the trippiest, like, I want like halfway between like, Animal Collective and then Taylor Swift, right? Like I want to be like right in the middle, like where it's got enough pop sensibility that it's just listenable, but
Took the
also,
words right out of
but
my
at the
mouth.
same time, it's like it would be good to listen to if you happen to be tripping. You know, like it would be like one of those things you'd want to put on. You know, like Sergeant Pepper would be top of the list. You know, I'm just hoping to get like up to
I don't know.
top
Sergeant
100.
Pepper's top of the list. You got Floyd.
It's a good point.
Yeah, you write vocal parts for your now. Did you say now fiance or now wife?
Yeah, we got married.
We just got married this year
in February.
Yeah.
We flew to Vegas. Just did it.
Sounds fun.
Yeah.
And the newest music video, you were telling me before we started recording, that like when you were out there, you went to like an art exhibit. And
Yeah.
a lot of those visuals of the new music video are coming directly from that art exhibit, and they are cool looking.
Yeah, we shot both of the videos on our wedding honeymoon time. We decided to just go elope, and so we went out to Vegas, and yeah, we first
They
went,
are drenched in romance. Like, you know, you guys are both like making love to the camera,
Yeah,
you know. Yeah.
Yeah, it was fun. We did it's called Omega Mart, which is part of Meow Wolf, which is an art collective, and they have 3 of these super awesome, very immersive, experiential, interactive art, like just warehouses where every room you walk into is a completely different experience. And they're just so much fun. If you're in Santa Fe, Denver, or Vegas, go to Meow Wolf. So we just like had our phones on us, and we were just shooting like each other like against the weird stuff because we just wanted to be able to remember it. And we later were kind of looking at all this, and I was like, I think we got enough here for like to kind of make a music video out of. And then when we were out in on our honeymoon, we drove a couple hours out to Zion National Park, which is one of our favorite places, and we were taking a bike ride through the canyon, and which is just one of the coolest experiences I've ever had, because that place is otherworldly in how beautiful it is. Have you ever been out there?
Can't say that I have.
No, man. It's like the Grand Canyon, but it's like painted, you know. Smaller, much smaller. But we were taking this bike ride, and I had that same camera tripod with the twisty, grippy legs on it, and we were like, well, what if we, you know, that'd be cool to like see you singing as you ride your bike through Zion, right?
Yeah.
And so I put that thing and hooked it up to my backpack, and then I, you know, hooked it up and just had her ride behind me, and then we I had heard this is a music video trick for lip syncing, and I remembered it from the Weezer Sweater Song video. Do you remember that video?
Well, I know the
song?
song. I don't remember the video so much.
The video is like it pans them just playing in a room, but it just kind of gets sloppier and sloppier, and like dogs run through and everything. But the whole thing, they really overdo it. But it's where you sing the song at like double or triple speed, and then when you pair it up with the audio, you slow it down so that it looks like they're singing in slow motion, but it matches the.
Very cool.
Yeah. So we didn't go that far. We did like almost twice as fast on it, but it was so it's funny because as she was riding, she's actually singing that thing like, you know, twice as fast.
Right.
But yeah, that was like a neat little trick that I had heard about before, and I was like, oh, we should do that. And so it ended up lining up. It ended up working. Thank God. It ended up working.
You taught me the new thing.
Yeah, there's the new thing.
Yeah.
I knew I could do it.
Cool. Success.
Yes.
And you write the vocal part, right? For you at least write the lyrics, and then she sings them. Does she feel out the vocal melody at all, or is it all...
Definitely. I mean, I kind of have, you know, what I've written, and then I let her sort of take it from there, and then I will match a harmony to it, you know. So yeah, I love her voice. It's like she just sounds great, and like I said, I like harmonizing. more so anyway. But it is interesting because like some of these songs are, you know, particularly personal. Like I do have two that are about that friend that I lost to cancer, you know, and like you know, and so it's interesting because there's a couple of songs that I'm like I kind of want to just sing these, but you know, I'm figuring out what to do. Like I think we'll just do it both ways and then like listen to it back and see which one we like and kind of go from there. But yeah, I'm very, very, it's a excellent bonus to having such a, incredible, beautiful wife that she also can sing great too. So
Yeah, and that's the dream, to have her share in this. I mean, what a bonding experience, like these things that are so momentous in your life, you know, sort of crystallizing these feelings in a way with that achieves some legacy of some type, you know, or at least some like closure in like, well, I've thought this thing out in this complete way, you know, in this little package thing, and she can participate in that with you. That's really a way to be vulnerable in your creativity with somebody else.
yeah, that's true. Yeah, my man. What are you writing right now? Are you like?
I'm working on an album that means a lot to me and might be unlistenable for everybody else, but I really care about it. It's like I might call it something like consolidation, and it's like just little pieces of stuff that I've written since, like, I think there's stuff as far back as high school that I wrote on like piano roll on Fruity Loops or whatever. And I've been really piecing it together for a couple. This would be like the third year. The first year was just collecting all of it and putting it down on sheet music, and collecting all of my poetry and putting it in like a central Google Doc. And then the second year was sort of piecing that together into like song ideas that make sense, you know, these pieces of music. It's still very like you know, harsh juxtapositions and stuff, and alternative song forms that you know, sort of proggy, you know, just going different moods sort of squished up against each other, but you know, in a way that makes sense to me, and tell a certain story about sort of like a philosophical cycle that I think at least reflects my experience, if not something a little bit more universal than that, about how we can, you know, we have our interests that we care about, and that sort of dictate our action in a certain way, and there's some certainty in that, but then that certainty gets sort of repeatedly corrupted by freedom, like by, you know, this like will, you know, and how trying to connect with others or be in a society or community also further complicates that, and relationship with work, and this sort of discipline versus letting go, you know, this push and pull of that eventually leads you back to what you're interested in, you know, and what you can care about, like what you have the bandwidth to care about. So I'm trying to make it this circle of like caring, and then certainty, and then doubt, and then sort of community and work, and then I'm losing it. I'm still working on it.
No, I like it. I mean, I don't know if it's connected at all, but as you were talking, it reminded me. You mentioned being into, you know, doing the philosophy. You mentioned certainty and freedom, kind of seeming almost like you were alluding to them as being like sort of, you know, opposites, or like kind of opposed to each other in that way. And it reminds me of the Eric Fromm book, Escape from Freedom. I don't know if you've
I know of it. Yeah. He's got some love work too. That's really good.
But just like that idea that, you know, I mean, he's trying to answer the question, you know, after, you know, the Holocaust and everything, like how does authoritarian, this is kind of what Frankel and him are all trying to figure out, is like why does authoritarianism happen? You know, like why do people allow this sort of thing to happen? And like his take on it is essentially that ultimately people don't really want to be free. Freedom requires an insane amount of responsibility, you know, where if you're not, you know, there's security in being unfree. Like you can't, freedom and uncertainty sort of have to go hand in hand almost in that way. And so it just reminded me of that when you were talking about that.
Yeah, I think that's very interesting. And I think I agree, like some ultimate freedom is very scary. The radical freedom that the existentialists, you know, talk about, I guess post World War II, you know, like maybe we shouldn't be totally free to go into all out war. I think the modern thinkers, you know, way before the World War II, like Locke and through to on the other side of everything, Hegel, talk about and Kant talk about freedom as being your ability to follow like a rule or a law, right? Like some rule or law has to be formulated, and then you choosing to do the moral thing of following the rule is somehow more free than just willy-nilly doing whatever you want. I think that's a really interesting sort of backwards concept of it, your counterintuitive concept as well.
Yeah, it's kind of like the deontological approach to it.
That there's a duty, and then you're more fully realized when you're doing that duty.
Right.
But I think, in my cycle, I think work, you know, that relationship with work and struggle has a very specific part. But for me, I always get overwhelmed whenever I'm in the grind for when I'm rocking it, you know, for a certain period of time. My bandwidth gets so filled up with like to-dos and focus that I have to step back and sort of like, what is my priority? You know, what makes life worth living? You know?
Yeah, and like, you know, I've definitely swung on that pendulum. I feel like there was a period of time in my life where I was like, I was willing to sacrifice now for later, but in a way that was like, I'll be happy later, not like in a, not like in delaying gratification. It was delaying gratification, but it was like also delaying happiness and delaying joy at the same time, you know, where it's like, well, I can be miserable now. It's okay because I'll, you know, once I, you know, have this or that, and, you know, once I've got things set up and people view me a certain way and I have this certain amount of money or like, you know, whatever, that then that will make me happy and I'll achieve this place of happiness that you just get to stay in, that you just get to hang out in for forever.
Contentment.
Right? Yeah. And, you know, it's like, and then, you know, after I almost, you know, died and like all that other stuff happened, I, in a way, like kind of that pendulum was so far pulled up over here that it kind of swung, you know, far in the other direction. And it was all about the moment and about like making sure that like, you know, like Jimmy, before he died, I remember, you know, someone was talking about going on a trip or a vacation and they were like, maybe I'll put it off till next year. And he was kind of like, you shouldn't do that. He was like, you should go on that now, you know, like, like you should take the vacation now because you don't know, you know, and, you know, that was like very present in my psyche for a while, that, you know, don't delay like enjoyment and happiness. But you get to a point where, you know, if you don't have some of both, like if it's all one thing, you just get used to that one thing. If there's not a comparison, you know, it's like pain and pleasure are, I think they are like, you can't have one without the other. Like, or your brain will create that that judgment and that division of like, this is good and this is bad in whatever scenario you're in. And so like you could be completely in the lap of luxury your entire life and you're going to spend your time getting really mad about what someone posts on Instagram or like what, you know, like you're going to find something to hate, right?
Yeah.
And so
the human condition.
Yeah. So you have to like, it's almost like you have to engage with pain in order to be able to experience. It's like your capacity for pain and your capacity for pleasure seem like they're tied together in a way, right? Like you can't, like if you can experience more of one, you can experience more of the other, but it doesn't seem to work in the way where it's like, well, I'm just going to experience more pleasure and then I can handle more pain. It seems like you have to, like, you know, like you like,
yeah.
I don't know why, but like for whatever reason, you have to like go do shit that you hate in order to be able to enjoy the fact that you're not doing something that you hate. like you know,
yeah.
like
It's a cycle, you know, because I think with every happiness there's a loss too.
Yeah.
As that moment ends,
yeah,
you get back from vacation. It's like, oh man,
yeah,
back to the grind.
that's right.
Yeah, it's always a tough decision whether I'm going to buy more gear for the studio or go on a trip.
Yeah.
But yeah, so right now, just to finish the thought, is like that I am distilling down the poetry into vocal melodies and trying to write vocal melodies over the pretty thoroughly composed charts at this point that often have melodies. So I have to try to come up with counter melodies that aren't interfering with the melodies harmonically speaking. So I try to not have any like unisons ever between the multiple melodies.
Oh, cool.
Do you and I think I do that the normal way like anybody else does, where you've got a chord progression and you sort of hum something over it and you think, okay, I need this many syllables and it needs to rhyme in this way. Have you gone through that process of like, do you have like a wealth of poetry or something like that, like you're journaling or something that then you try to take ideas from and distill this like 10 syllable thing down into like a 5 syllable thing?
No, for me, it really is like when I write, there are times where a song will take me a month or two and I kind of keep, lyrically, I should say, like where I kind of keep kind of adding to it and kind of coming back to it and kind of refining it. I've had a couple songs like that, but for the most part, it's like I have a chord progression that I enjoy playing, and then a melody kind of comes to me, and that melody usually stays there, and then at some point I just feel it inside of me, like the emotions are either welling up or the spirit is moving or whatever, and I usually, when I sit down and write the song, I just sit down and write it. Like within an hour or two or whatever, I just like do it and it's done. Lyrically, at least. So like that's usually been my process, is that it's like I just kind of wait until there's something inside of me that will not like wait any longer to like get this feeling and this thought out, and it just sort of starts pouring out, and it's very like stream of consciousness in a way. So, but yeah, once I have it, I'm like, oh, okay, I now I know what the chorus is, I know what the verse is. It's usually pretty easy for me to then duplicate that into like a second verse, you know, that sort of thing. Yeah. And, you know, I pull from obviously, as we all do, I pull from my influences, you know, like there are times where I'm like, you know, this chorus could really use a melody that sounds like so-and-so, or, you know, like something and in blending, you know, those different songwriters together, I hope that I'm, you know, kind of finding that my own voice in that. But, you know, I've always liked groups that like that just kind of wear their influences on their sleeve, that are like fine with, you know, like especially the groups that like that don't just pick one, you know, like it's one thing if you're like, well, we just sound like The Cure, right? But it's another thing, like I'm thinking of who's coming to mind right now, LCD Sound System and Haim. I think both do that really well, where it's like in one album they sounded like 10 different bands, and like it's cool.
Yeah,
like it just kind of works because they're not just trying to do that one thing, but you know, they like, it's like, oh, that song sounds like a Prince song, and that song sounds like a Fatback song, and that song sounds like, you know, a Joy Division song or whatever, you know.
Well, these two songs that you've released most recently are totally different, so
yeah,
you're succeeding in that way.
Cool.
Yeah. Well, it is 9:01. Do we have any hanging threads or anything else that you wanted to talk about or plug?
No, man, all my threads are all
Tied up?
unhung.
I think we tied up all the loose
Yeah, we
threads.
probably, yeah, you got to tie up those loose threads.
Yeah, good. I really appreciate you coming on and talking to me about. I always feel like the conversation's just getting started.
Yeah.
But that's
I've started doing 2-parter episodes a lot on my show because we do 22 minutes for like one
Yeah.
episode. And so I've started just doing it where like the last 2 or 3 guests have all been 2-parters so that we can just keep going. And then you just got to go back and listen to the first one if you missed it, because it's too hard to stop talking, I guess.
It is. I know. I'm grinding it to a halt, but then as I do, I'm always like, but wait, I wanted to dig into this some more. So maybe I'll have to have you back. I've told all my guests, I'm still learning. I need a sign still. I need some clip-on, some backlighting. I need maybe clip-on mics rather than this mic. I let somebody borrow them this week, but in the next couple of weeks, I've got my clip-on lapel mics.
Yeah.
So I think the show and the format of the show is emerging. I might be trying to fit a mold on my album that I created years ago that's very challenging that I'm sticking to, but this,
Honestly,
I think
this would be a good background right here.
there is no mold. The room is a background?
Yeah.
I know, I've had somebody
Switch where
suggest
the light and
this
you
be
can
the background.
turn the camera and the chairs around and get the whole.
Oh, the whole studio.
Mhm.
Oh, I see what you're saying, and have it from here. That's something to consider. I'll think about
You
it.
do you, but
I'll try.
I would try it out. I would try it out.
I know. I mean, I've got all all the cables and knobs and stuff. I feel like would be the ultimate sort of background. It's there's a lot of feelings in the studio because I'm teaching kids,
Right,
often
right.
over here. So there's like a sloppy whiteboard and stuff behind me. But very, high tech stuff over here. But thank you for coming
man.
on. I think
Let's
it's the
jam.
main thing. Let's jam. So we're gonna take a quick break. If you're watching on Instagram, then please tune in to Irvin Music Studios YouTube channel, because I'm gonna stop the Instagram feed because my phone microphone's not gonna catch the music as well as my streaming software will. And I guess just in general, we'll be right back. Thank you for tuning in.
Sweet.
Bye, Instagram.
Do you have more people on YouTube than you do on Instagram listening usually? Or is it not?
Okay, so wait, let's hold on for a second.
Let's hold on for a second. Yeah, I need some water.
Oh, yeah.
I got a bottle.
Okay, good. Don't judge my last chord. Extensions, man. That's what I was afraid of. So.
Oh yeah, because it's pointed basically that speaker's basically pointed right at this microphone.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yet, I need to get the mic. Keep trying to nail it.
I can bring it in closer too.
That'd be helpful.
All right. too. Yeah. So cool, man. I'm gonna get you on that Moog, and
Get more jammy.
well, what time is it? 9:25.
Yeah, I hate not being able to monitor this.
Yeah, well, let's just let's. I think that's cool. I'm singing then. Let's just jam on some. Let's get jam.
Let's do
Yeah.
it. You want to hop on this neat?
Yeah.
This guy.
Here. To use this bender.
Yeah, that's sweet. Not anymore.
There was definitely something.
Some cool moments. Well, that's basically time. We could do one more if you want, or we could call it. What do you think?
I'm good with that. Let's end on a high note.
All right, sounds good to me.
Let's not take another half hour to figure something out.
All right. I feel like the interview portion is for anybody who wants to watch us under music again. The jam's just for us. All right. Well, on that note, thank you to anybody who is still watching. Oh, I forgot to put the camera on the drum set, so I've just been over here off camera.
I've just been hogging this spotlight.
That's right. That's good. You're filling up the camera. That's good. Thank you again for coming on,
Yeah, man.
Joel, Skene, and looking forward to seeing everybody next week. I am going to have another Asheville musician on.
Find somebody.
That's right. Well, they're booked. I just am blanking on who it is.
Oh, gotcha. Whoever you are, I'm sure you're very special.
They